Jorvan Moss is a roboticist, designer, and tinkerer who engineers adorable robots that he wears on his person. Jorvan 3D prints these adorable creatures and imbues each one with a unique personality, making interacting with them a genuine and exciting performance. Here's Jorvan with a few of his robot sidekicks.
Hey Test FM, my name is Jay. I am in Adam's Cave. And if you're wondering who I am, well, I am a self-taught robotanist, a tinker per se, maker if you prefer. I taught myself how to build and design my own robots. I focus mostly on wearable robots, so robots you can put on your person, wear them around, and interact around the world with you. I use CADing software to design my robots and my projects. I 3D print them. And then, of course, I use electronics from Adafruit, DigiKey, those type of companies to give my robots life. Here in front of me are some of my projects that I've been working on throughout the years. And I want to give you guys a little tour through my process and some of my inventions. These are the magpie eyes. I built these late or early 2020 during the lockdown of COVID. Sadly, one of my friends had passed away, and I really didn't know how to deal with my emotions. So like any other tinker or maker or robotanist, I got to work. So I ended up building these really nice goggles, really. I love sci-fi stuff all the time. That's been like a big thing for me. And like all sci-fi tinkers always have their mad tinker goggles. Like they always have that type of thing, whether they have a whole bunch of lenses on them or something around that. So I wanted to design my own. So I created these. The specialized in these, they're being run by an Adafruit Trinket, which is a small circuit board, but they have an iris on the inside. You can see it opening and closing, and of course the servos move the eyebrows. It gives it a fun, like, animated look, which I 100% love. The eyebrows move, giving it like facial expressions, and then the irises open and close. So the fun thing about this is being controlled by the Adafruit Trinket. It's a very small board, but it can run a lot of stuff. Currently it's running 2 servos. I have a servo for each eye, and each servo pulls the iris open or close, and it also pulls the eyebrow, which gives these really fun, looks pretty much. It's a very simple build, and if I turn it around here, you can see I had to wire some of the wires together for they can talk to each other. One of these panels holds the actual battery power, and the other panel holds the actual circuit. And that's why I have these 2 round things, and it gives it a very full, I want to call it a very full structure look. Very characterized. And of course, more importantly, it's a wearable. So I can still wear these and still see out of them. It's very fun for when I was working on stuff, or I would do live videos for other events, and you can look at this and see how weird my face is when they're going with it. Because they're automated, I don't have to think about it or try to like control them to make a certain face that I want. And it kind of easily just takes that thought process off of my mind. And it actually lasts a little bit longer just because of it being automated. I just have to turn it on, turn it off, compared to me forgetting that it's on and forgetting to press the button to make them do a certain thing. Next I want to show you is one of my personal favorite builds, one that's very close to my heart because it was technically my first wearable robot, my Ossibot. It's based off of Anansi, the folklore, of the African folklore of the storytelling spider. I thought about it a long time ago. One of my friends made a wearable robot and inspired me to build my own, but I didn't want to copy her specifically, so I made a spider one instead. This is actually version 14 of this robot, believe it or not. I've built 14 other iterations that you can probably find on the internet somewhere. This one's my personal favorite because it's so small. It's very simple design. The circuit, of course, is in the actual abdomen of the robot. The head is just LEDs and the servo looking back and forth. And of course, I know you're looking at this, you're thinking, why doesn't the legs move? The legs doesn't crawl around? It doesn't. I'm sorry to tell you that, it doesn't. The reason behind this, I use ball bearings to actually keep the legs on here, ball joints. The cool thing about this is that it's wearable. So I can put it on my head, move around the legs just a little bit. Which, fun thing about this, it actually fits pretty well. And it holds on. And now I have a robot on my head. I did this for a lot of like fun little events when I gave talks to people through like live streams and things like that. I would just wear a robot on my head. And sometimes if I go out to the store, I'll just wear it just to see if I get people's reactions with it. It was just that fun. Plus, I think, you know, as times have gone and grew, let's be real, we all like spiders. Fun thing about this, and one thing, it's like one of my personal favorites, as this is automated as well as the goggles. Fun fact, they're both using the same thing. Yeah, the exact same code and the exact same actual parts are being used to control both of these things. The small animation of the random iteration gives it all this great lifelike type of animating experience, which I just love. You can do a lot with just a little bit of movement. Come on. Okay, there we go. Yeah, I was actually kind of worried that it wasn't going to work. This was legitimately a very, very quick build for me. It took me about 3 days to get this done. It's one of my most educational builds, though, thanks to the wing movements and small stuff like that. Okay. Of course, I designed this, I CAD'd it, I 3D printed everything, but also I used different techniques. So I use foam to get around these areas, and then I use fabric paint to add the rivets. That way you have a very like steampunky, these things were riveted on type of look without it being too heavy. The thing about this is, since it's steampunk and also just because of my design process, it became very flimsy. So when I was turning it on just now, I wasn't sure if it was gonna work, and I'm so happy that it did. I am ecstatic that that worked. This one taught me a lot. This build taught me definitely about time constrictions that I have, just getting things to work. Because, you know, sometimes if you're ever going into certain industries or movies or whatever, sometimes you need something to work for just one scene. Visually, a lot's happening here. I have one servo, it's a continuous rotation servo, is driving the eyes. This one's just in there with a screw, but this one's actually being controlled by a servo. And then you have, of course, the wing rotation, which I have to study wings, how birds move their wings and stuff to create these. I did my best to just attach foam to them just because the motors aren't really strong as I wish they were to actually get a full rotation, but came out beautifully. This whole thing is being powered with an Adafruit Cricut, which is a very good starting board. If you're just starting to tinker around with things and try to figure out how things work, I definitely recommend this because it's very much plug and play. So that's why I decided to use this board for this build. Next, we're going to go into my new personal favorite build. This is my wearable robot backpack named Helen. Now, what makes Helen very special, other than her being actually built into the backpack, is that she actually uses facial recognition and a whole bunch of different servo controls that I barely have time to explain. But pretty much her whole design is she sees a face, and when she recognizes a face, she'll play a sound effect. Now, as you know, facial recognition, even though you hear it, it sounds scary, it's not the best. So thus far, this version, it can't tell people who are wearing a mask. So if you're wearing a mask, it won't even look at you. It'll just look past you. So you have to legitly just be not wearing anything on your face for it to notice you. But it does give a fun interactivity that people love to have. So I built Helen using a cat backpack I found when I was going thrift store shopping. It's one of the best designs. I decorated, of course. They have the button switches here, which actually turn on the robot because there's 3 different boards in here. And of course, the entire circuit is actually built inside of the bag. So I cut out a piece of acrylic here and then took all the screws and everything that I would need and just plugged everything in. So this is, of course, the sound system was over here, LED system. The servo controller and everything else are actually in the bot itself because it was just easier to put it there since the servo's up there. And then, of course, down here is all the power sources, and that's why they're in orange, too. See, I try to be safety and be nice about coloring, so if something happens, they can know that's the batteries. So, yeah, those 2 buttons, activate Helen, and then this one.
Detected higher levels of CO2.
That's the sound system. Of course, it saw me because I'm back here, but usually it's a bit finicky. Plus, the sound samples are my best friend, so we did the best that we could. Let's throw it on and see how the facial recognition goes. Plus, you can see how bare it looks while being worn on me. So, here's me wearing it. It's beautiful, right? It's pretty. It does really well. Looks around. Oh, hey.
Dude, hey Jay, good to see you, man. Look at. I keep wanting to say her because
You
you,
can definitely
called
say
it Helen.
her. Yeah, it's a name.
Oh, is she recognizing me?
Yeah, because you don't have a mask on, as you can see you. The facial recognition isn't perfect yet because it's still machine learning. So
Yeah.
if you're wearing a mask, it doesn't notice you at all. Like you're invisible. But as soon as you take the mask off and you can see everything, it's like, oh, it's a person.
I love that. Does she light up when she detects a?
Yeah, it plays voice lines, which I have it off right now. But if I press it,
Detecting high levels of CO2. Adjusting.
so it plays the sound effects, and then the sound effects light up the LEDs, which lets you know that things are happening.
Oh, that is freaking awesome, man.
I have to work on more voice lines, but it only has 10 voice lines right now,
Okay.
which is perfectly fine, but it has gotten to a situation that I've heard them all so many times that I'm just like, I don't want to hear them anymore.
So this feels like a really unique execution, Jay, because I don't know of a character in movies or comic books with a robot assistant sitting on their shoulder. But now I'm like, why haven't I seen that before? What's the genesis of Project Helen?
Oh, the funny thing about that is, like, I always started with wearable robots. That was my thing to begin with. It was just like the concept of having a wearable robot go with you places.
I also really appreciate the aesthetic, how you've made this dome really featureless. There's a lot of mission creep in 3D printing and design right now where people are like, everything's got a facet or design on it. And you're showing real restraint in that. What's the inspiration for the aesthetics of
The inspiration
Helen?
for this one was definitely, I think we said earlier, was Star Wars, because I am a fan of the Imperial droid.
Sure. Oh, God, one of the most beautiful droids ever.
Oh, I love Star Wars droids and all their designs because just the detail they put into every niche, every screw is just so beautiful that, like, even if you didn't think it works, it looks like it works. And that's what I was going for. And with this one, why everything is really so nice and so perfectly smooth is I was going for a more clean look.
Yeah.
So, like, I was going for more of a space aesthetic. Like, if I was, like, on a starship and we crashed somewhere and I was like, hey, Helen is like my AI computer. Helen, I need you to come with me. Transfer your AI into the bag. And we just take the bag on, clip it on, and then jump out the ship and then go adventuring.
So what kind of other functionalities are you thinking for Helen in the future?
In the future, I'm thinking of a few different ideas. I want to talk to a few of my friends because I want to build Helen, instead of using a cat bag, I want to build their own bag. That way I can have the ability to, like, put it on like this, you know, do that. Or if we're out in a different situation, I can, like, set it into, like, personalized mode and, like, put it down like R2-D2 and let it roll around.
Nice.
Those are, like, my future plans for it. And currently, it's only using facial recognition for now, but I'm going to add some, of course, more words. I want to add some microphones in there. That way you can hear people and that way you can make better responses. I'm aiming to be that sci-fi character with the robot that everyone's just like, hey, I need you to build this thing. And I'm like, oh, I got the goggles for it. Let me just go. I can just do this really quickly.
All right, I swear, like, when we see somebody with a sentient robot on their shoulder in a movie like 2 years from now, it started here. I'm sure of it. Dude, that is just so beautiful. I love also how, if you had described this to me, I would feel like it would be highly distracting. But because the bot really is sort of responding to me and sort of checking me out, it's weirdly less distracting because it's not just noise.
Yeah, that's the thing about that too, because I've learned that from my previous projects of them being autonomous, that having a robot just look at you or even pretend to be looking at you, just to, like, have that type of iteration, it brings out so much.
Interesting.
It's a very, I'm pretty sure there's, like, a science behind this where people go into the concept of interacting with a robot.
Right.
Because, you know, that's
or feeling
fun
like
thing.
something's looking at you.
So, like, when it looks at people and stuff like that and just watches them, it's a lot better. And then adding just a little bit more, like, just moving, like, back and forth to try to get, like, the range right and stuff, it just gives it more, like, a real person type of feel to it. I personally, I forget sometimes. I went through Ren Fair with this on, and I forgot this was even on. The sound effects just died. It was people who were pointing it out to me that was there to remind me that it was there.
That's really lovely. There's an energy coming off of you talking about this that I just love so much. I'm here for it. I'm feeling it.
It's funny because I make the joke constantly, like, I work out not to be, like, buff. I work out because I have to carry robots on my back. So, like,
That's fantastic. Dude, I just love the form factor. I love how she's interacting.
it's really thrilling.
Oh yeah, it's going to be super fun in the future. I'm going to add. This is Mark II. I remember Mark I was from Silicon, but I want to get this one really well working so I can take it to other events in the future.
Yeah.
And I'm going to start working on Mark II in the background. So like eventually it's going to be
Mark III in the background.
3. Yeah.
Yes.
Like 3v2 depends on how hard.
Sure.
It really depends on how much difference it becomes when it comes
Fair
to this.
enough. Oh, dude, that is just freaking lovely.